Welcome to the People Teaching People podcast. Joining me on the podcast is Anita Chowdhury. I first met Anita at a Mamas for Mamas event through my friend Shannon Christensen, the founder and chief vision officer of Mamas for Mamas. Mamas for Mamas is a national charitable organization that supports mothers and caregivers in crisis by providing ongoing support to individuals and families facing various poverty related struggles. Their mission is to change the landscape of poverty through innovative approaches to financial barriers faced by struggling families. After chatting with Anita at a more recent Mamas for Mamas event, my curiosity was piqued as I started to learn more about Anita, the many hats she wears, and the difference she is making in the world. I am so grateful that she said yes to this conversation with me. Anita is a certified elementary educator with a specialization in fine arts. She is currently the branch coordinator at Mamas for Mamas Calgary and is completing her Master's of Arts in Educational Research at the Workland School of Education at the University of Calgary. Her research focuses on the intersections of social justice, arts integration, land-based learning, and engaged pedagogy. She aims to highlight how these fields come together to strengthen notions of critical transdisciplinarity. Anita weaves her passions for food justice, poverty alleviation, and art through her work within the social service sector and education from holistic perspectives rooted in sustainability, relationality, and care. Thank you so much for joining me today, Anita.
Thank you for having me, Tiana.
So, I want to start, as I always do, with your story. So, I'm really curious what brought you to where you are and all the things that you're doing today.
Yeah, I always like to tell people that my story definitely started in British Columbia, where I was born, and the culture in the province, I'm sure you're aware, is very eco-conscious and environmentally inspired. And I think that contributed to my upbringing quite a bit. My family was, dysfunctional in many senses, like many of our families feel growing up. But I always found a place of solace and peace when we were in our community garden. And being in a community garden with my parents was the only space that I truly felt that sense of kind of inner healing and a true sense of positivity. And so that was a huge inspiration to why I do a lot of my work in the field of land-based learning, why I focus my work in poverty alleviation. Growing your own food and learning to nurture the land around you is something I hold really close to my heart, and I still carry it into my work today.
So, you wear a number of hats. You have woven together your roles as an educator, as a researcher, as a mom, as a community leader. So, how have all these different parts of your life sort of come together, and how do they sort of shape and influence one another?
I would definitely say that I found my calling as an educator when I started working at Mount Royal over the summers. I started as an art history teacher and educator, and that was where I really found my love and passion for teaching. Working with kids in that space really reflected and showed me what I wanted to do in the future, and I'm so grateful for that experience. It really carried forward into me wanting to work as a teacher in the elementary space with young children. And so I began my teaching journey at York University in Toronto. And then I did end up falling pregnant, with my second daughter at the time. And I really had to reevaluate some of my choices and figure out if I wanted to continue. And I really did. But I decided that I would take motherhood in one arm and my education in the other while balancing the, matrix of working in between. And I, to this day, continue to juggle motherhood, work, and school. But the places that I work in permit me to do those in a balanced manner. And so I'm able to contribute to the community, work in an educational space, and raise my family. And I think that is really rare these days. And I feel that I have a lot of privilege and I'm very fortunate to be able to do that.
I am curious too, because you said you grew up in BC and then you talked about Mount Royal here in Calgary, and then you talked about going to York University. So, what was kind of that journey like in terms of being in different parts of the country and then sort of finding your way here to Calgary?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I have had the opportunity to live in, some of our major cities across the country. So I grew up in Surrey, British Columbia, and then my family moved to Calgary during the economic boom. And shortly after, I decided I wanted to go and pursue my first undergraduate degree at Carleton in Ottawa. And after I completed my degree in Ottawa, I decided to move back to Calgary. And I decided, you know what? I want to move back to Ontario. And then I moved to Toronto after I had met my partner. And so he was originally from Toronto, and we thought it was going to be really great to check out the city, live life there. And while it would have been fun if we were just a young couple, I was pregnant at that time. So I always had this fear of motherhood surrounding me. And so it was really nice to see what each community was like in all of those major cities. But for some reason, Calgary always called back to me. It was this place of community and home that felt like nowhere else. And I truly feel that Calgary has this amazing sense of compassion that a lot of other cities don't have. So I think that to this day, I find Calgary is my home. It's where I always want to come back to.
Here in Calgary, tell me about the roles that you're juggling. So, what is it like? What is the work that you're doing? What are those different hats that you're wearing?
I actually started in completing my education degree here at the University of Calgary, and it was really stressful because it was happening during the pandemic. So I completed my teaching degree exclusively online, besides our in-school practicum components, which is very unusual for most teachers that get a chance to cultivate relationships and work with people in person. And so that was a bit of a jolt, I guess. We didn't know what to expect at that time, but we were very, very determined to become teachers. And so I really cherished my time in learning to become a teacher and cultivating those relationships during the pandemic. But I really, really felt that I needed some sort of exposure to the outside world. And so I came across a really amazing opportunity. It was pre-service teacher learning opportunity, and they called it experiential learning through the University of Calgary. So it gives you an opportunity to volunteer essentially as a pre-service teacher. And I signed up for one of those opportunities because it was a land-based learning opportunity that was outside. And I told myself, wow, this is what I need. I need to get outside, especially during the pandemic. And so I was able to sign up, and I found myself on a 30-acre urban regenerative farm working with the associate professor. Her name was Dr. Miwa Takuchi, and she was leading this amazing day camp for refugee children and youth. And it was facilitated in collaboration with the Calgary Catholic Immigration Society. And we were working with close to 60 children and youth that summer. And it was because they didn't have access to any sort of summer programming while they were out of school. And our programming was solely focused on the study and relationship of learning soil. And so we were teaching children about soil, and we titled our day camp Soil Camp. And so that was one of the very first experiences of being in a really wonderful community garden setting with a large number of various community members. And so a lot of these children, their families already had plots on the land, and they were used to being there and cultivating and gardening with their families, but they were now being exposed to working with pre-service teachers, professors, scientists, community leaders, and it really did inspire me to continue my educational journey. And it was what led me to pursue my master's degree in educational research. And so in a fashion where most people join the teaching force right after they complete their teaching degree, I decided to continue my research and work with those children. And to this day, I'm still completing my master's degree because I have had more children along the way, but it's given me the opportunity to, manage my research. And then during that time, I was also offered the opportunity to work for the National Poverty Alleviation charity Mamas for Mamas. I had just been a volunteer for a number of years, and they reached out to me in 2022, about a year after our physical branch had opened, and I was offered the role to be the branch coordinator. And I am still the branch coordinator to this day, and I have been able to manage and grow the branch and really support a number of families in the hundreds. And I really, really value and cherish all of the opportunities that have been coming my way through the charity. And I'm really excited to see where we go.
Well, I would say, Anita, that you are making a real positive difference in the world.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear your pathway and your journey and how, especially like with your education degree happening in those COVID times, which was such a strange and weird and crazy time in our lives. Interestingly, when you were a student, I was teaching student teachers at the U of C in the Faculty of Education through that and supervising student teachers doing their field experience. So, like during the first year of COVID online, and then when student teachers were allowed to go into schools, I was also allowed to go into the schools and observe them teaching. And that was all a very strange experience to walk through. So, yeah, I was walking through it as well, but in a different capacity. Now, with your master's research, I'm curious about this and to learn a little bit more about the work that you're doing with that. It is so interesting that you went from your teaching degree to continue to like explore and do that research so around social justice and arts integration, land-based learning, engaged pedagogy. So tell me about your research and what is it that you're looking into and discovering?
I will pay a lot of tribute and homage to the people who came before me. And so when I was completing my first degree at Carleton, I was in an interdisciplinary education class, and that was when I was first introduced to bell hooks. And so if you're not aware of who Bell Hooks is, she is a trailblazer in education. She has paved the path for so many people that look into engaged pedagogy, and she was really truly my very first inspiration and role model in diving a little bit deeper into engaged pedagogy. And alongside bell hooks, Paulo Freire informs a lot of my research as well. And just like bell hooks, he is the forerunner in liberation and education and really helping people understand that education is a path to freedom. And I truly believe that education is a path to freedom. And the more the more you can expand your worldviews and perspectives. And I really take those two educators' theories to back up and inform so much of my work. And so, as an art teacher by trade, who has a lot of training in the fine arts and loves to facilitate learning with children and youth, I also wanted children and youth to understand that these were pathways to expansion, to freedom, to learning the way you wanted to learn without being reprimanded, while understanding that you had a means to pave the path to social justice, to understand the issues that were challenging in our world. And so that can be really tough as a teacher when you're trying to teach young children and youth that they can make a difference in their world, even if it is through very small steps. And so through my master's work, I really, really try to always help people understand that education is that path to using the tools around you, especially through the land and through art, in understanding and expanding your consciousness. And so that idea around critical consciousness that Paulo Freire has put out has been really pivotal in my work as well.
So Many things on your plate, lots of great learning happening through all the work that you're doing. And that idea of land-based learning is something that's come up a few times in what you've been chatting about with me today. So I'm wondering, how might each of us, no matter where we are, contribute to deepening our own connection with the land?
I think it really starts at home, and it really starts with little steps to cultivating a relationship with even just soil. A lot of people can often be out of touch, and a lot of young people nowadays have this phrase and they say, you should go touch grass. And I very much agree with this phrase because some of us don't even have that opportunity in our day to go outside and connect with the land. And just taking that time to go for a walk and maybe water your dying houseplant. Those are little steps that we can take into becoming closer with the land and really establishing those important connections. And so Indigenous pedagogy is really important in this understanding because they are the stewards of the land. They are the people that have been showing us how to take care of the land for, generations. And we really have to lean into those relationships and try our best to grow with them, whether they be baby steps in, reviving that house plant or having that beautiful, flourishing community garden and working with a number of people in a larger space.
Those are all great pieces of advice. And you're right, there's some very simple ways and things that we can do to even get started. Watering houseplants, sadly, I am terrible at this. Thank goodness for my husband. But you're so right. Just getting outside, even if it's for a small moment, when, things going on in our own world or maybe things that are happening in the greater world around us feel like too much, taking that time to be outside and touch grass really does make a big difference for sure.
Definitely.
Now, I'm curious as well about how you think about education shifting when we frame it through the lens of maternal care and nurturing and compassion.
I think this has been something that has surrounded us for millennia. Mothers have always been in our life, whether it's been a grandmother, an aunt, or a family member or a friend that has shown that role of what motherhood and parenthood looks like. But I think it's starting to inform education in a really critical manner these days. I think people are starting to understand the importance of compassion, the importance of understanding and growing in empathy. And those are things that our mothers have taught us for so long. People are just leaning into understanding how it can be viewed from a critical lens and how it can inform our work as educators. So I think that growing in empathy is probably the most important thing we can do as educators. If we can help people understand how to work through a lens of empathy, then our entire outlook and perspective will change in various areas. No matter if you're working through science and math, or if you are a gym teacher, compassion and empathy and just that level of nurturing and care goes such a long way. It helps us deepen our relationships with social and emotional learning, which I think is very important these days, especially for children and youth that are struggling with mental health issues. They're struggling with physical issues around, their body image, self-esteem. I think if we view things in the lens of motherhood, maternal care, and compassion, things would be different.
Over this last year, I really worked at articulating and developing a framework to support the businesses and organizations and individual entrepreneurs that I work with in creating learning experiences. And my podcast is the People Teaching People podcast. And I've called my framework the People Teaching People framework, essentially. And just to really give people a lens to look through when it comes to teaching and learning, because there's a science to it, there's an art to
Absolutely.
it, but there's also the heart piece. And I
For
think
sure.
that's the part that people often don't think about because there are so many feelings and emotions that come with learning. And it is such an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to, when we are cognizant of the feelings involved and the people involved and the humanness of learning, to really have a lasting positive impact on people, where they remember that experience beyond the experience itself, and what they learn and the experience that they have is something that carries forward with them. And I always challenge people to think back about who their favorite teacher has been.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be asking you that later in the podcast, in our conversation, because 99.99% of the time, it's not about what that person taught them, it's about how that person made them feel.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
really resonate with what you've shared. And along with that is that sense of belonging and feeling
Mm-hmm.
seen and heard and understood. And I'm curious about your thoughts about how that sense of belonging is so important in both education, but also within our communities.
Yeah, I think it's a key role, when you are an educator, is to help people find their identity. It's to help them grow in their identity. And I think finding that sense of belonging, whether you are a new mom or you are a new immigrant or refugee, is so important. You can often feel a serious sense of isolation when you are jumping into these new roles in your life, and building that sense of community and finding your people that will uplift you is so valuable. It really helps us step into our roles and understand that we have something valuable to contribute to society. It helps us find our purpose, and it helps us understand that each individual on earth has something to give back. And it's that idea of reciprocity in giving through community that really helps us find that sense of identity and sense of belonging. And I find that I see it in new moms when they join our Facebook group, which now has over 21,000 people here in Calgary. They feel a little bit less alone. They find that peer support through other moms in the page as a space to vent, or often just have that conversation, so they know that they are being seen, that their struggles have been felt by others around them. And with children, it's the same. When they see other people have been in their shoes, it helps them establish that relationship with either that caregiver or educator a little bit more closely. And building that trust is probably one of the most important things when you are learning to become a teacher, or you're learning to build that relationship with someone that you want to see do really well in life.
It's all about those relationships.
Absolutely.
Now, I love your story about how you came to, first be volunteering with Mamas for Mamas Calgary, and then moving into the role that you have today. So I'm wondering, in that role, what have you learned about education and community and social supports, and how they all intersect to help with poverty alleviation?
Yeah, one of the biggest things I think people are not aware of it, that is, there is support out there. And if you find the right people to help you navigate those resources, you open up those doors to understanding how education plays a huge part in helping you out of those cycles of poverty, those barriers that are preventing you from being your best self. And oftentimes those barriers are colonial, they're institutional, and they can be really tough to get out of. But I think when we work together as a community, we can work together to educate people around us and help them understand that this might just be a temporary phase in your life. And so with Mamas for Mamas, the most important thing that we do is provide that resource navigation and help people understand that they will receive that hand up, but the next time they need that support or assistance, they might be able to do it on their own, because now they have the tools and they're empowered to seek out that support through the education they've received. And so just a quick example of where we see that often is through breastfeeding. A lot of people often find they don't have the resources and they don't know where to start, and they feel very overwhelmed. And the world of nourishing your baby is very complex. But when we provide support through webinars online, or we give that address to the well-fed clinic here in Calgary, people start to understand there are resources and there are different ways to educate yourself versus just using Google and being your own, online doctor, because that can feel really overwhelming sometimes for people to navigate everything on the internet. When they have those connections and they establish those points of, I can go here to receive this support, or I can go to the library to get this book, or I can work with my social worker to reach out to a few of these other organizations, that empowerment is so much higher and it is so much more felt.
You're right. It's like when you're struggling with something, going to the internet is like information overload, like
Yeah.
having somebody point you in a certain direction and help you navigate through all that noise is so helpful. And the breastfeeding challenge, I definitely experienced and was so grateful for, having support in finding that correct kind of place to start and get some help. And wow, yeah, that just brings me back to, yeah, like 20 years ago, which is crazy, but it's still, I feel it inside, because yeah, it just feels so overwhelming and you don't even know where to begin. So it's so fantastic that you're able to support moms and families with navigating the the challenges along the way, and steering them in the direction of the amazing supports that are out there, for sure. Now, in navigating your roles as a mom, a frontline worker, a graduate student, all while raising, you've got 3 children, is that right?
Yes.
3 kiddos. How do you navigate that balancing act? So you've mentioned that you feel like have a way to kind of juggle those things. So I'm curious about, some of the strategies that have helped you do that. And then also, I'm wondering what you've learned about yourself in that process.
I will say that becoming a parent is something that really changes your mindset. It creates a huge mental shift. And I think it provides a lot of motivation for people in changing their life. And I think it's really valuable because prior to becoming a mom, I probably had half the motivation and half the energy I do now. But after becoming a parent, it's really shown me what I'm truly capable of. And I think a lot of people see this when they become a mom for the first time. They just learn to adapt and change in such a transformational manner. And that's why I think people value motherhood on such a different scale. They start to understand themselves better, they start to love their bodies more, and they start to understand that who they see in the mirror is who also the little people see. And so I think that is one of the most important things that I've learned in the process, is that I am capable and I can do hard things, and I know I can do it because I have a village backing me. And a lot of people don't have that village, and I think that's why Mamas for Mamas was created, because we understand that we need to be that village for a lot of people that don't have those access to those supports directly. And I am really privileged in the sense that I work in a workplace, various institutions that value my role as a parent, and they value my role as an educator, researcher, and frontline worker. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if I didn't work in places that value those roles and how I can contribute to society. And so working at Mamas for Mamas was the first place I was able to bring my kids to work, because families were coming in every day and shopping with us. And I saw that children were being brought into the space at our head office in Kelowna. So I told myself, I can bring my baby to work. And so when my last child was born, I was back at work 8 weeks postpartum. And I think that's very rare for people to say. And I am so fortunate that I had that opportunity to bring my son to work as a baby while contributing to society and while making it work for my family and bringing in a paycheck. And the same goes for my educational journey. I have a really understanding supervisor And we really, really do our work in a very decolonial way. And we understand that we're in an institution, we still have to contribute through research and academics, but we still want to value our well being and mental health and contribute in a healthy way that nourishes our minds, bodies, and soul.
I'm so happy that you have those supports and those great systems and humans around you that allow you to do all the amazing things that you're doing. And you're so right. If we are well, then we're able to be well and present and supportive to the other people in our life. And when we're not, I mean, there's, of course, the saying like you can't, pour from an empty cup. So
Absolutely.
it's so important that we're taking the care for ourselves that we need. So with all the crazy going on in our world right now, I'm wondering what gives you hope in your work and in the things that you're doing.
I think the really small acts of joy I see every day, whether it's through the space at Mamas for Mamas Calgary or when I'm working with a family on the land, those are the things that continue to inspire me and show me that we need to keep moving forward. If we don't work through the idea that hope is going to carry us forward and hold us up, I don't think we really have much to look forward to. And I think that idea of hope is really, really important in education. It really helps us understand that we will continue to do our work and carry out our research, work through poverty alleviation, work alongside our community members in this space to understand that there is a brighter future. And that's what we do as educators. I think that is the key role that we have in society. We are always working with students to help them understand they are the future. And they need to see that sense of hope in themselves and in the world around them, despite how dark things can be. And I think it is the reason why we have amazing activists and amazing role models and amazing people to look up to in this world. And, I often think about very young people that are doing amazing things and coming up with cool innovations and technologies and promoting things on social media. I think those are hopeful things that continue to keep me inspired.
Yes, we must hang on to that hope. Now, I hinted at that I was going to ask you about your favorite teacher, and I'm curious if you do have one and who that person is and why they mean so much to you.
It's funny when I look back at my journey of being a student, almost all of my favorite teachers have been males in my life, and they've been the male teachers that have shown a lot of compassion and have worked through those ideas of care and nurture, and they've shown that you can grow through diverse means. And so I'd say my favorite teacher that really catapulted me to becoming an art teacher and pursuing arts integrated learning and just a background in art history and all things related art would probably be Paul Zabos. He is a retired teacher from Lester B. Pearson, and he worked at the school for a large number of years, but he was just so creative and so meaningful and so caring in how he taught his students. And he might have not been the most technologically advanced teacher that I had, but he was the most caring teacher that I had. And I think it goes to show how that level of care can extend into really growing amazing, compassionate, and inspiring people in the future. So a lot of the people that he has taught have gone on to become engineers, they've gone on to become artists themselves, art teachers, architects. These people have taken up diverse careers because of his rooting as an art teacher and his lens and how he taught people to use creativity as a springboard.
He sounds like an amazing human.
Definitely. And I still have a relationship with him today, and he still sends me really long text messages that take me a few days to reply to, but that's how much he cares.
Oh, I love that so much. That's often another question I ask people is, have you let this person know how much they mean to you? And if you're able, that's something that I love to challenge people to do. And I recently reconnected with my grade 2 teacher who was my favorite teacher of all time, and we actually went
Aw,
out and had a 4-hour coffee together, which was just the greatest thing ever. And if I needed any reason to solidify why she was my favorite teacher ever, it was that the things that she remembered about, all of her students, it was just mind-blowing. She's in her 80s now, Mrs. Hogland, and yeah, she cared about the kids in her class so much. So,
that is the
um,
most heartwarming thing I've heard in a long time.
so yeah, I really do challenge people if you can reconnect. I think it means so much to teachers to hear about that impact that they've had on the students that they've worked with. So I love that you still have that connection with your favorite teacher and that he sends you really long text messages. I think that's great. Now, when you look back at your journey so far, what is something that you'd say you're the most proud of?
Besides the 88-page lesson plan curriculum that I created in my field experience the first time, I think
Wow.
I am the most proud of seeing how my children enjoy learning. I think watching your own children experience learning in really creative manners and experiencing the joy that they have from seeing how much fun they can have in diverse learning spaces is the thing I will cherish most. I always saw school as a really safe space where I could totally be myself and build new friendships. And I can see that there's a little bit of hesitation sometimes in my children when going to school, but when they truly immerse themselves in those learning experiences and they see that they get to build those friendships and they get to experience new things and do it in fun ways and sometimes often struggle and can challenge, that is the most wonderful thing for me, I think.
I love that. And what is something that you would love to learn about or something that you would love to learn how to do?
One thing that I'm really looking forward to learn is some powerlifting. I
Hmm.
have recently gotten back into my yoga practice and I just completed my 80th class. And so I've been doing a lot of yoga, Pilates, and bar and some strength training, but I want to try some powerlifting. I have a few friends that are doing it. I have a friend in New Zealand that posts her powerlifting videos. And when I see that, I'm like, I want to do that one day.
You should. That's amazing. I know I see those and wow, it's incredible what people are lifting and doing.
Especially moms.
Yes. Yeah, we do so much heavy lifting figuratively, but yes, the that heavy lifting is also amazing. Amazing. Well, I wish you all the best with that. You'll have to keep me posted.
I will definitely let you know if I dabble in it. And if I do successfully pull off a lift, I'll send you some footage.
Some evidence. And if you could sit down and have a conversation with someone that you would love to learn from, who would that be and why?
I mean, I guess this would be posthumously because she's passed, but if I had the opportunity to hear an educator like Bell Hooks speak, since she's gone, I would love to see Maya Angelou speak or someone that has contributed to empowering education, working in the civil rights field. I would love that opportunity and I hope it does happen one day.
Well, sometimes when we put those things out there, you just never know.
Definitely.
Now, education plays such a huge part of everything that we do. So I'm of the mindset that, teaching and learning is a part of course, school, but work and play and our exploration and our everyday life. So I'm curious if you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom that could inspire or empower people with their own teaching and learning journeys.
I think people often forget that we do have access at our fingertips to a wealth of knowledge, especially online. And I think YouTube and other social media platforms are some of the best spaces to take up a new hobby or learn something new. It's one of the most easily accessible spaces. And so I let everyone know I didn't know how to embroider, but I picked it up through YouTube and I picked it up through an Instagrammer that had a free lesson. So if you're interested in something, you want to do something new, don't be afraid to try it.
That's such great advice. And it's funny, sometimes when I'm driving our youngest places, he'll tell me about something new he's discovered or something he wants to try or something that he's working on. And I'm like, where did you learn about that? And he's like, YouTube. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's a wealth of resources for sure, for sure. Anita, I want to thank you so very much for taking the time to join me today to have this conversation and to share your story and all your words of wisdom. If our listeners want to learn more about you and all the things that you are up to, where are the best places to find you?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about our research project and what we are doing on the land, please feel free to check out www.soilcamp.ca. And if you want to learn more about the poverty alleviation work that I facilitate through Mamas for Mamas, please go to www.mamasformamas.org.
Amazing. Thank you so very much, Anita. It was great to connect with you and to learn from you.
Same. I loved learning and listening to everything you had to share, Tiana. I'm so grateful for this opportunity and look forward to connecting again in the future.
Thank you.